Hello and welcome to Walk the Cinema podcast. We're here with a familiar guest, Eric from Find Your Film, and we're going to be talking about My Heart Can't Beat Unless You Tell It to. I'm going to let you introduce yourself again, just in case someone's new listening to this and doesn't know who you are.
My name is Eric Holmes, and I am on the Find Your Film podcast with my co-host Greg Serzavosti and Bruce Perky. And once a month, Bruce and I will join Greg on his and Anderson's podcast Cinematics. And they're just movie podcasts. You've heard them before. You're listening to one now, a really good one now. So congratulations to you.
I also really
dear
like
listener.
Find Your Film. They talk about a handful of films, and a lot
Yeah.
of them are like really new. You haven't heard of them before. I end up adding a bunch of them to my watch list.
Yeah.
It's a really good way to find new stuff.
And this one I picked this time was one we did talk about. It was a couple years ago. This one made my top movie of that year. It was just one of the first time I was on here, talked about Last Man on Earth, which is based on I Am Legend. And so I figure, let's talk about another vampire movie.
Yeah. And it's a vampire movie without really being about vampirism.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we don't know how this character ended up with this disease, affliction.
And he's not the killer in any, well, not on purpose in any circumstance.
Yeah.
So it's a different type of vampire movie. It goes along with the new trend of elevated horror, where they're mostly analogies and they use these horror tropes as analogies for different scenarios. And I think this is more of a family drama and how we handle sickness of loved ones and just the dynamics that happen when you're stuck in a house with someone that can't take care of themselves.
Yeah, it's kind of it's almost like you mentioned, the vampirism almost takes a place of like a cancer or some sort of illness. And it sort of plays on the how a tragedy within a family can tend to break it apart sometimes. Granted, people don't have the tragedy of our younger brother's a vampire and we got to kill people, but there's certain things when a family member gets sick or something bad happens, that's usually something everyone's got to come together and deal with. And it's not the person's fault, it's not the person who's sick's fault. It's just a thing that happens. And sometimes that can weigh on people in different ways. And I think as vampire movies go, it uses that really well to kind of discover that, or kind of talk about that sort of dynamic, I think.
It also uses it effectively to be like somber and like keep you on your edge because you don't know what's going to happen, and you see the healthy brother, like kind of wanting out and not wanting to kill people, but they're still involved in this scenario where they got to kill people if they want their brother to survive. So it keeps you guessing in that sense. So it's not like it just uses the vampire as an analogy for any other disease. It's also effective as a horror, in my opinion.
Yeah, and also I think it just in terms of using certain tropes like the zombie genre. There's a lot of zombie movies, but people have done zombie movies really well and said more than just the splatter horror version of it. I think what draws me to vampires in general is that you get more that there's a lot more what's the word, you can do a lot more. Vampires, I think, are a lot more versatile to play around with ideas, at least in my opinion. But we haven't really explored the chupacabra movies, so maybe chupacabras are more versatile than even vampires.
That would be interesting to see done.
Yeah, even like werewolves are used to represent things, represent personal change or hardship. But vampires, I think, are the most diverse. Sorry.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I really like showing the dynamic between siblings, I guess, in terms of taking care of like this sick family member. When I think of people having to sacrifice for a family member, you usually think of maybe like a parent relationship, like trying to sacrifice to take care of their child. And so I think they did this in a different perspective, which was kind of nice.
Yeah, and it's a true dynamic that happens in real life. You were mentioning that a lot of times healthy siblings are kind of put to the back burner in relationship to the unhealthy ones because the parents have to take care of one, and it's obviously going to be the one that can't take care of themselves. So that's a dynamic that we don't see that often.
Hmm.
And it's a lot of times we watched Rent a Pal earlier, like the
Oh yeah, that
movie.
was a good one.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah, it was a
really
really
good
good
one.
one.
And it's a son taking care of his mother that can't move. We also have the opposite. But this came in a sense where like they don't owe him much, or sometimes they start feeling like they don't owe him much. They just do it because it's their brother that they
Yeah.
love. And it's different because your parents are not your siblings. It's always a different relationship. I don't have siblings, so
Yeah, and also there's like you know they all care for each other. I mean,
yeah,
and so much so that they're willing to kill people to keep their
yeah.
brother alive. But then there's still the resentment that builds,
Yeah.
and there's still tension that builds, and all that's natural when
Mm-hmm.
when you're that tight knit and you're dealing with any sort of burden or issue between the family, and sometimes it's sickness, sometimes your sibling turns into a vampire. You never know what's going to happen. Well, another thing, because um doing the podcasts every week, I don't often get a chance to revisit movies a lot, so I was more than happy to revisit this one. But one of the things that I just completely forgot about was Dwight, Patrick Fugit's character. He goes to the guy that he's got tied up in that shed,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
and the guy doesn't speak English.
Yeah,
And so he's talking to Patrick, and it's got the subtitles of what he's saying, but he's talking to Dwight, and it's got the subtitles of what he's saying. And then Dwight's just kind of adding his own shit onto that.
Yeah.
And then so there's like this back and forth, but like no one's really listening to each other. And I think that's a kind of another fun dynamic. It's kind of it was real subtle, but it was another fun dynamic to kind of like throw into this, because like is air quote slow as this movie is, there's like a lot going on underneath the surface, I think.
yeah. They
Yeah.
all kind of need outlets outside of their family.
Yeah.
Dwight has a prostitute he visits often, and she ends up not surviving. And the younger brother is always looking for kids his age to interact with.
And that turns out well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
But yeah,
actually, I guess all things considered, that was probably the one thing. By the way, spoilers, but just go watch the movie and then come back here.
yeah.
But now that I think of it, that his friend that came over, that was the one thing that, I mean, relatively speaking, did kind of turn out well a little bit. At least for that character.
Yeah, no, I think it turned out as well as it could have.
Oh yeah,
Like
yeah.
who his siblings were, but I think that, like you were talking about, they each have their own little outlets, or they end up getting their own outlets, except really for Jessie, the sister. She doesn't really have anything outside of taking care of her family. She's literally sacrificed her life to care for her younger brother.
Even at work, she's working and she's looking out of the window trying to find someone to kill.
Mm-hmm.
Where she says, I saw this woman, she's a prostitute, let's get her. She's a lot of the times not paying attention to the people in front of her, that she's a waitress, so she's taking their order, and then she's just looking out of the window, always thinking of how to protect her brother.
Yeah, I kind of saw her character as kind of she's so focused on taking care of Thomas that like when Thomas brings up like we should go out, it would be good for us. And he's not wrong.
Yeah.
But also she's like, we can't. Well, yeah, you can maybe direct your focus to something else once in a while, and then that'll kind of relieve some tension, which they never got to do. And I think that's important too. Just because you have a burden you have to deal with doesn't mean you have to focus on that burden 100% of the time. Sometimes you need to step back and, you know what, let's do something different. Let's change it up. Let's cut loose a little bit.
Yeah.
She's so worried about him that she ends up doing worse for him.
Yeah.
By trying to protect him so much, not letting him move and do anything.
Yeah.
That he ends up just kind of rebelling and wanting out.
Yeah, and that scene in particular where they're having dinner and he's asking to leave the house and she's saying no, and he just wants to know why, and she just doesn't really have an answer for him except that it's late, she's tired, all like the standard kind of excuses you give when you just don't want to do something. And Thomas spills the blood that they gave him for dinner, and she says, do you have any idea what we do to get you that blood? Yeah. Or something along those lines. And like, I feel like that kind of spoke to me in a way, because I don't know, I do have siblings. I'm the oldest sibling in my little family, and so yeah, so like having, not that I have ever been in a situation like this before, but there have been times where it's like I've done something that I didn't necessarily want to do for my sibling, and then they act ungrateful, and it's the most infuriating thing. That you do kind of blow up at them, because it's like I have sacrificed whatever to make you happy, or to make you, whatever, cater to them in some type of way. And so when they act like ungrateful, it's hard to be nice.
Yeah. Also, it's kind of it's hard with like with kids, for example, like in that scene, Thomas is just lashing out because he's frustrated. I'm stuck in this goddamn house. I don't have friends. Like I understand you guys are keeping me alive, but his quality of life is so low.
Yeah.
Like he's just frustrated with that. And Jesse's quality of life is also low because she's got to deal with it. And so it's like the tension building between them, and just him pushing the blood off the table. It's just kind of this comes to a head. But again, what happened right before that was hey, maybe we should go out and do something. Let's blow off some steam, because it's clear that this family is, as much as they care for each other, and as much as Jesse and Dwight, want to kill people, as much as they don't want to keep their brother alive, that shit weighs on you. It can't be all business. Life should be like a mullet. Party in the front or party in the rear, business in the front, or however that goes.
But that speaks to how effective this is as a family drama, which I think some people would criticize this for not being a real horror movie, which I disagree. I think there's a lot of horror elements and a lot of tension that comes from the horror, but it's so effective as a family drama that people think it's not a horror movie. I think that's like the top review on IMDb or something, where they like the movie, but they said it would be better received if it didn't advertise itself as a horror movie.
I don't know that I agree with that.
I don't agree.
Because when you put, I think it's not. I think this is pretty well received for the most part. Most reviews I've seen of it have been pretty positive. But I think maybe it's not as viewed as much, but that has nothing to do with how the advertising is, in that, they advertised one movie and it was something else. In fact, I think the trailer kind of nails the tone of what this is anyway.
I think the problem is the studio.
I think it's just not enough people heard about it.
Yeah, because of the studio. If this was released by A24, this would be a hit.
Oh yeah, for sure. And that's I shouldn't even say this because I'm too ignorant on it, but I think a lot of that comes down to just marketing. Yeah. Like I'll just put it on the Tubi and hope for the best. Well, I guess it's on Shutter, but I think with a lot of indie movies like this, I don't know this for a fact, but I get the sense that they just kind of dump them on streaming services and hope for the best. Oh, we'll play it in one theater in New York and one theater in LA and hope it catches a buzz. But that seems like a lazy way to go about it, especially when you got a movie this good. Like, why not get behind it and just like go whole hog? But maybe they saw the movie and they didn't see what people like. I think a lot of people that watch this is like, this is really good. But they probably watch and go, oh, just it's a little indie thing. No one cares. And it's like, no, people care. You just gotta tell them that, even if you trick them with like a misleading trailer, you're still getting them into the theater. You're still getting them to watch it, and whether they like it or whether or not they're happy that you misled them is another issue entirely.
Yeah,
but I don't think a trailer that misleads someone is why people don't watch it. That just means that people will be misled, go watch it, and be either pleasantly surprised or pissed off that it wasn't the movie they wanted.
Yeah.
But once they watch the movie, tickets already paid for. They're not going to go, oh well, I've never, and then go back and get a refund. I don't think that happens often.
I think this got unlucky with the distribution. If this got picked up by Universal or A24, this could have been received really well. Like Lamb was kind of similar to this in pacing and family dynamics, and that didn't get received super well by a wide audience, but it made enough money to be worth the publicity that A24 put behind it.
Yeah.
And I think this would be the same, if not better, because I think this would hit closer to home to a lot of people.
Yeah, because I think I was pleasantly surprised watching this, just of like how much I kind of related to it. Just because, I mean, I've kind of been in a situation where I've had to take care of a sick family member periodically throughout my life, and it's really hard to take care of someone who's sick that you care about, and it can be frustrating. You do have to like sacrifice certain things, and you do have to do things that maybe you don't necessarily want to do, not kill anybody, but I think this is like showing that kind of thing in a dramatic way.
Yeah,
where
it's an extreme,
where like I feel like it is kind of showing that in an extreme way that taking care of someone does make you sacrifice a lot. Like they had to sacrifice their morals by killing people to keep their sibling alive, where most people that take care of sick people or whatever are sacrificing like their social life or a job or something. So I think it was just really relatable, and I liked that about it.
Yeah, I also think movies like this, and not just this one exclusively, but just movies like this where it's got the vampire element, so it's got a little bit of fantastical stuff in it. But I think when you watch movies like this, you can kind of step back and see yourself in there and see like, okay, they're going through a similar thing that I'm going through, and they're having these problems. But since you're looking at it from a distance, you can say, oh, these are the problems these people have, and this is how you can fix them. And then maybe go back and go, oh wait, I'm going through that same shit. Maybe I can fix my life in a similar way. Maybe I can take the mistakes these people are making and apply it to my own life, and maybe kind of course correct a bit if need be.
Yeah, I agree.
I also want to mention that I think the two sibling dynamics, I think, kind of are both extremes of the one that's incredibly dedicated and would never do anything that wouldn't be to protect the brother, and Dwight being the other extreme where he wants out. And I think both of them are the extremes, but a singular person would go through both things at different points while taking care of
for sure 100%.
Someone that's sick. I think this really nailed the dynamics super well. And I was really surprised how good this was. I read the synopsis. I don't really watch trailers, but the synopsis didn't do a good job at explaining this. It's very just one sentence. Oh, it's a family that has issues. That's it. We don't know what
Slow,
they are.
a slow family drama.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I
It
mean,
is
it
a slow
is.
film. Yeah, it is.
Actually, I got IMDb up right now. I'll just read the synopsis on here. And of course, it's going to take forever to load. So, how's it going?
Yeah, we just watched it right
Yeah.
before we started recording, so
Yeah.
it's very fresh on the mind.
Mm-hmm. We're still thinking about everything,
Mm-hmm.
unpacking it, and yeah, I think I was very surprised from the beginning. When it started, I was like, "Oh, it's gonna be good." Like I didn't have any doubt as soon as it started, and it's him with the guy in the car, and then he kills him.
Yeah.
That the tone was gonna really suit my sensibility,
Yeah.
and it did, and it's really short, so it never has a chance to lose that steam.
Yeah. I think it was like 75 minutes or something like that. Or it's under an hour and a half, I think.
Yeah, it was
But
like
here's the synopsis on IMDb. Two mysterious siblings find themselves at odds over care for their frail and sickly younger brother.
yeah.
Yep.
Exciting.
Just
So
that's it.
exciting.
And it's like the siblings aren't necessarily outwardly at odds, I would say. It's mostly kind of silent. Like it's not like
Mm-hmm.
they're having big arguments over the care or even like
Mm-hmm.
really having conversations
Yeah,
about
they're
it.
not really butting heads in the typical way. They just know each other because they're
Mm-hmm.
siblings,
Yeah.
and they kind of realize that they're kind of separating in the way that they react towards what they have to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and
And
there's also just all that resentment just kind of bubbling
mm,
below the surface. That's why I say like movies like this, and this one especially, it's like on its surface, it just seems like I think a lot of people feel like, oh, it's slow, not much happening. But like when you really get down and focus on it, that's why I think movies like this should always be seen in theaters. I mean, granted, it's not in theaters now, so you can only watch it streaming. But I think movies like this work best in a theater because the world around you is gone. It's
mm,
just you in the theater looking at the screen, and you got to be completely focused on it. And then so movies like this that are air quotes slow and boring, when you're focused in on it, you start seeing all that really subtle relationship stuff going on. You know, a certain look or someone does something that, like, if you're only half paying attention, it's not going to mean anything to you. But if you're dialed in, it's like, oh, like when she's in the car and she looks over the prostitute and sees her brother walk in, it's not like a big moment. But if you're watching it and you're paying attention, that's like, holy shit.
Yeah. Yeah, because she even mentions that she's scared that he's going to leave them because she
Yeah.
can kind of sense that he doesn't want to kill people. He's kind of expressed that he at least feels bad about it. And there she is seeing that he's making a connection with someone that could potentially take him away.
mm-hmm.
And so that's probably why she ends up killing the prostitute character so that she gets rid of any chance that he would have had to leave and start a new life, or at least
Yeah.
that's what she thinks she's doing.
That part kind of reminded me of Dogtooth from Yorgos Lanthimos, which is a great movie. We got to cover that sometime. But that's his outlet, and when she takes it away from him, it just makes it worse
Yeah.
for him. And that's when, after he sings the song that gave the movie its title, and I don't remember what the second line is, but it's something like I'm stuck in this love for you or something like that, which is the description of what they're doing.
Yeah.
They're stuck in this situation that they don't like because of their love for their brother. And she knows that he wants out in some sense.
Yeah. I think this is also like this does really good at with the character work. I mean, it does a fantastic job at that. But it's like one of those basically doomed characters, and it kind of in some ways it's frustrating because I want to hop through the screen and talk to all three of them and go, guys, let's
Yeah,
you're
this isn't
fucking up
working.
here. let's talk this over. Let's get some levity here. Let's because like, granted, they're doing terrible things, but you understand why.
Yeah.
And they're kind of, it's almost like at one point, I was like, maybe they talked to someone. Like, why keep this a secret? Granted, he needs blood and they had to kill people, but like, how did it get to this point? Why, didn't they bring a doctor over? You start thinking of stuff like that, where it's like, after the fact, it seems so obvious. Granted, if you're in that position, and also that's the premise of the movie, so you kind of let stuff like that go. But at the same time, it's like, um, you know, go find a medical professional and see, get a hold of social services or something and see if we can help. Or maybe that's just another commentary on it, because who wants to go to social services when your brother's a vampire? No one's going to help you.
Right.
Who how do you get medical help when you don't have insurance? So yeah, I guess I take back everything I said. Sometimes say it seems so easy. Yeah, just go ahead and get help. Maybe you can't all the time, and
Yeah.
maybe that's another point that I missed.
Yeah. I think it
So
also
don't listen to me about anything.
it might also be just like the untrustworthiness that I think Jesse might have towards other people, because I think that at least I got the sense that she was the one in charge. She's the one that kind of takes charge.
Yeah, when he doesn't kill Eduardo, she goes out and kills, even though that's not her job, because she makes money by working, so that's his job.
Yeah, and even just like subtle things, like right at the beginning where they're sitting down in front of the TV eating food, and she says that her food is cold. She just reaches over and takes some food from Dwight's plate. It just got the sense that she's the one in charge, and she's the one that kind of runs the show. And so I think it might be her untrustfulness towards everybody outside of their family, and why they don't, allow for him to interact with anybody, or interact with other people themselves besides their small jobs in town. Because I don't know, I think that it would be reasonable for me, if he's a vampire and he can't go out into the sun, that it would be okay if they drove around at night, or if he interacted with people at night, at least could kind of keep it a secret. I would assume, if they didn't want to come out and say that he's a vampire.
Overprotective.
Yeah.
To a fault.
But I also wanted to kind of point out, so it's Jonathan Quartos is a writer and director, and his brother Michael is a cinematographer for this. I think this movie looks amazing. It's really dark, but it's like moody, but not like it looks like a ran down house, but it doesn't, like, sometimes you see horror movies and they go in a hospital that's supposed to be all sterile, but instead it's all like just dripping with goo everywhere, and it's like a working hospital. It's like, it's not a hospital I would ever go into. Just put a bullet in my head and end it quick if that's what we're doing. But it maintains like a dirty look while still kind of being grounded in reality. For the most part. I mean, it's stylized for sure, but not so much so that it looks like a Tim Burton movie or something like that.
Yeah,
I agree. I love the way it looks. The aspect ratio really helps with the closeness of the film, because if you shoot this in a wide camera, it's fine, no one's gonna really notice or care much. But when you decide to make it this size, it kind of closes you in with the characters, which is kind of the point of how they live in general. And some people don't realize that there's a point to aspect ratios, and they think it's just because.
Yeah, and sometimes it is. Sometimes it
is. That's the problem. It's people do that, and they do like angles with the camera, not meaning anything, and that's what makes people think that it's just a style choice. When in this, I think it's obviously to close down just the world, so it's puts you more in the shoes of the characters.
Yeah. Oh, poo. Oh, I know what I was going to ask you guys. What was before watching it, like, what was your, like, was this movie on your radar at all? Or, and
No,
then when it became there, like, what was your thoughts going into it?
it wasn't on my radar. I'd
Mm-mm.
never heard of it somehow.
I also had never heard of it.
Well,
But
we already covered why that is. Because they didn't advertise
yeah,
it for shit.
Yeah, no. And I don't know, just like because the only thing that I saw about it, I didn't really look into it before we watched it, was that little
synopsis. Yeah.
synopsis, the one sentence synopsis. So I was like, this isn't selling me on anything. I have no idea what this
I
is
thought
going to
it could
be.
be interesting, given that the current climate of this type of horror movie has been really good. There's a lot of just stuck in the house type. Rent a Pal we talked about, very similar in how it's in the house and then they get out of the house for a little bit, and I just know that they kind of suit me, and I like the pacing, I like the stories being told. So I wanted to watch it, but I didn't know what to expect because it doesn't really describe it much.
I'll
Yeah, I
be
think
honest, I just wasn't looking forward to it because it just didn't sound, very interesting based on the synopsis, and I couldn't really glean anything from the
Hmm.
poster. So I was just like, this might be fine. We'll see.
Yeah, I don't like
yeah.
the
But
poster. The poster doesn't do a good job at selling it either. I think
but
it's
I like the poster from like a kind of a, I don't know if Art Deco. No, that's not the right word.
mm,
It's just it's got like a real similar or a real simple look to it.
hmm,
So I like that. There's not a lot of messiness to it.
I think the
But
poster kind of
yeah,
sells
the
that it's two sides. It's the brother versus the sister, but that's not what the movie is.
yeah.
So,
But yeah, as far as like a poster like grabbing you saying that's the one I want to watch,
mm,
I just think it looks neat, and the fact that I love the movie, like I totally have that poster on my wall. But yeah, it's not. Sometimes you get posters and you watch and go, I don't even know what that is, but I have to watch that
yeah.
movie.
yeah.
That's not quite that poster,
No, I do
but
think like I definitely am glad that we watched it because I really did enjoy it. And
Hmm.
like I said, I felt it was pretty relatable, even for being a horror movie about siblings killing strangers to feed to their brother. You
yeah,
know.
I think what got this on my radar was the title. Actually, I saw the title and was like, my
Mm,
heart can't, and I can't remember how I came across it, but I like really like long or poetic titles.
mm.
Just
Mhm.
like the idea of my heart can't beat unless you tell it to. Oh, that's interesting. I wonder what that's about. And then I watched the trailer. I'm like, I must watch this movie.
It's a neat title. I like the title.
Yeah, I like titles that are kind of they stand out.
Yeah, they could have called it like a stab or blood or
Definitely.
bond or whatever like that.
Mhm.
There's a we watched a movie recently. The original title is Sagasu, but the American title is Missing.
Mm,
And I don't know if you have Google in front of you.
got my phone.
Type in missing or
Getting the
even
Liam
missing film,
Neeson.
and you will come up with so many movies that's not the one I just told you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You know, you type in "My Heart Can't Beat Unless You Tell It to." There's one movie coming up, and it's
Yeah,
this one.
exactly. Yeah. If you do type in missing, there's just
there's too many.
too many
Yeah,
things to parse through.
You can make a lot of movies about missing.
Yeah. But
yeah,
I like the title, and I like how they utilize the saying or the phrase in the film. Because like you said, it really does kind
Yeah,
of
this.
reiterate the fact that like they're doing all of this because of their love, but it's also kind of destroying them as a
Yeah.
family.
yeah. Another movie I really like that has a this one was A24 one, and I think it was moderate hit at least for its budget. I guess I don't know, but It Comes at Night.
Mm,
Granted,
yeah.
that was another one with what you were saying earlier, where they advertised the movie of something that it's not at all that movie, and even the title like suggests like, oh, this is a monster movie. It's like, no, not
Yeah.
really, but just the idea of like it comes at night, and then you watch this really dark trailer, and it's like, ooh, what's this? What's this all about? Kind of intrigued me to it, and I ended up loving that one too. Um, and those two have a really similar kind of tone to them. Maybe it's just that tone I like.
Yeah.
That and Christmas rom-coms, which we're getting in the Christmas season, so I'll get to watch Single all the way again.
I don't think I made
It's
him watch
traumatizing.
all the Christmas movies with me last year, or
Like
pretty
30
much.
of them.
So I don't think I can get him to do it again.
Yeah. Well,
Wow.
it's easy for me because like our podcast, we do a lot of indie movies,
Mm.
and a lot of indie movies are like bummer movies. You don't get like a lot of lighthearted. Sometimes you do, but for the most part, they're either really bloody or really dark or really depressing, or you know, documentaries about torture and just people in despair.
Yeah.
So whereas years ago you would put a rom-com in front of me and be like, not interested. Now just steeped in depression, just with all the movies I'm watching. Then
Exactly.
when a Christmas rom-com comes in front of me, I'm like, oh fucking please, I cannot wait to
There's
watch
a
this and kind of
reprieve.
get a little palate cleanser.
There was one Christmas movie I got to pick last year. So I picked a depressing indie one called Christmas Again, about a Christmas tree salesman in New York. And I love that one.
Yeah.
So I'll watch that one again.
It's okay. It's not as cheery as
No.
I want my cheesy
Yeah.
Christmas movies to be. So
I wish Jim Varney was still alive. I could go for a new Ernest movie every year. Ernest saves my yeah. Ernest saved my livelihood, I guess. I don't know if that's a right word term for it. But yeah.
yeah.
I don't have anything clever with an Ernest title, oddly enough. So I guess that's kind of fitting.
Yeah.
I guess we'll get to the ratings. Ratings for My Heart Can't Beat Unless You Tell It To. I'll let you go first.
I give it a 7 out of 10. I really enjoyed it. Like I said, I think I can relate to a lot of the themes, and I think it does a good job at, like, or at least it did a good job for me at making me examine those types of relationships that I have with my family in particular, you know?
Hmm.
Um but I don't know if it's a movie that I'll revisit again anytime soon. I feel like after watching it, I really enjoyed it, but I don't know if I'll get anything more out of it than I got going like through this watch through, I guess.
I'm stuck between a 7 and an 8. Probably more leaning towards the 7. But I really hope that this director, and I guess his cinematographer brother, get a bigger, slightly bigger budget to work with, especially a marketing budget.
Yeah.
I think they have a lot to offer,
Hmm.
and I got the sense that this was already like super well done for what they had. So they're not amateurs at all, and I was very happy watching this for the first time. It was a great choice.
Yeah.
I really
I
like.
mean, this one's a 10 out of 10 for me. I mean, it was my favorite movie of that year,
Yeah.
and this is kind of like, especially after watching again, it just got better. And but to your point, it's not a movie that's like, oh, I could go for something lighthearted. Let's put on My Heart Can't Beat Unless You Tell It To. Like
Yeah.
it's not a air quote fun movie,
Mm-hmm.
but it's got it definitely intrigues me, and every time I watch it, which unfortunately hasn't been that many times, but every time I watch it, kind of just get new stuff out of it. And yeah, this is like one of those movies that I watch and go, if I ever got to make a movie, I hope it's that good.
Yeah, for a first-time feature, this is incredibly good.
Yeah. Yeah, and in fact, hopefully they get to, like you said, hopefully they get to do another movie soon. But I can't help but think that so sometimes like it's like, unfortunately for them, my bar for them is set so high.
Mm. Yeah.
It's like, all right, can you do better than that? But at the same time, I love this so much that like I wouldn't expect them to. What the fuck it was it? The guy that did Bone Tomahawk, and then he came
Ugh,
out with Dragged Across Concrete, and then Cell
and
Block 99.
those are all good.
Yeah,
Those are
So
also
anyway,
good.
I love Bone Tomahawk, and then Dragged Across Concrete was coming out. And I'm like, I still like Bone Tomahawk better,
Yeah.
and I still like Bone. Stop Block 99 is about. I'm kind of back and forth between that and Bone Tomahawk. But even when Dragged Across Concrete came out, I was so hyped on it, and it wasn't as good, but I
Mhm.
still loved it. And so, like, if they come out with the "My Heart Can't Beat Unless You Tell It to," or or whatever their next, hopefully they don't. I can't
Yeah,
imagine how
no
you would do a
sequel.
sequel to this, but whatever their next movie is, like,
Mhm.
I'm definitely excited to watch it. And it doesn't have to be as good as this, but I think it's like one of those early filmmaker, like on the show we watch, uh Maddie Doe, she came out with a movie called The Long Walk, and then checked out her other movies. And if she comes out with another one, like Chantelay's fucking awesome, Long Walk's awesome. If she comes out with another movie, like the bar for her is set really high, because she's so talented and her movies are so good. Um, like it just because, like, if she comes out with a movie just because it's not as good as The Long Walk doesn't mean it's a shit movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because when you set a bar that high, like, you just gotta meet expectations, I guess. Like, no one can make a movie that good, I get. But if you do,
Mhm.
I'm I'm excited to see it for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think with at least them, since, not a lot of people saw this, if they come out with something that's a little bit more widely known,
Mm.
maybe they
Yeah,
won't get, even if it's
yeah,
not as good, they won't get.
But there's also the catch 22, and if it's more widely known, it might be more commercial.
Yeah.
And this not being commercial helped it make it that good because it could be more subtle
yeah,
and slower than if you're trying to sell it to a big audience.
Yeah.
yeah. I would also say, like, this is like one of those movies that, like, I think if a studio came across, or like a well, I guess Patrick Fugit, he's a pretty big actor, but like let's say I don't know, Chris Hemsworth comes across it. Oh, I really liked your movie. I want you to direct the next Thor movie or whatever. It's like, oh well, at least we got this one out of them, because they're gone forever into the Marvel machine.
Oh, yeah.
But it Greg often mentions of, like, really interesting filmmakers, like, what if they had like a $100 million budget, like,
Mm.
just to see what, as creative as they are with this, what could they do with something like a big budget thing. And that, but that's, you can't be creative with a $100 million budget, because you have to make the money back. Too big of a
Yeah.
risk for
And
that.
it's also
But like, as
oftentimes
a
worse.
as a concept, it would be cool to see something like that happen.
But it's also oftentimes worse where you have this budget and you feel like you have to spend it. So
Yeah,
sometimes your vision is there and you make the movie and you have everything and then you're like, there's so much money left. Why don't I put an explosion or more CGI or something, and
yeah,
it makes the movie worse. We saw like M. Night Shyamalan do that, and a lot of people gave Robert Eggers
Yeah,
a hard
the
time
Northman.
for the Northman, where
I love the Northman.
I like the I think it's my favorite movie of his, but his budget was immensely larger than his previous two,
Yeah,
and it felt like it, which I guess some people didn't like.
yeah. But I mean, that's kind of what I'm talking about. Like, um, uh, you get like, I didn't love The Witch. Like,
Mm.
a couple of the characters kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I appreciated the movie. It was just kind of like, the was it the younger daughter, and the mom character was just like grating on me the entire time. I was like, get me the fuck out of this movie. But I still appreciated it, like the movie itself. And then of course Lighthouse was awesome, and then Northman. And actually, he's got Bruce and I did a thing about this. He's got a short based on the Telltale Heart that's really good. You can find that on YouTube.
Hmm.
But anyway, point being is that it was, he was making these small movies, and it was just kind of cool to see what he did with the budget, like, regardless of how responsible that is, to throw millions of dollars at something that's
Mm.
probably not going to make that much back. Might not. I don't know
But
what their
I
box
also heard
office was.
somewhere, it might have been Middle Class Film Class, that Robert Eggers doesn't want a budget that big ever again. He thought it was too much,
Yeah,
and he kind
Yeah,
of
I think they did mention that. on there.
I mean, you can always give it away.
Yeah.
It's like, here, we're gonna give you $100 million to make a movie. Cool. I need 30 million of this, but what's Matty Doe doing? What's Jonathan Quartas doing? Hey guys, here's a couple bucks.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, all I can say is this podcast can't stop unless you tell it to. Not that I would want it to.
We'll probably still keep going.
We'll never run out of movies to cover.
Oh, let's I mean, we kind of touched on it a bit, but like this is like the second vampire movie I brought up on this. Probably won't be the last unless you guys are tired of me already, which I totally get. But what are some of your favorite vampire movies, or maybe like favorite now let's not go vampire, it can be vampires, but let's go with like, because this is a vampire movie that isn't quite the vampire movie you think it is. Like maybe there's a zombie movie that kind of goes outside the lines, or a werewolf movie that goes outside the lines, or just something that on its face seems like it's something we've seen before a million times, but then you watch it and it's like this kind of goes a step beyond that.
That's a good question. I don't know if I have a good answer.
Just to kind of get your mind going in different directions you might not have went otherwise.
You said vampire, and I thought of this reimagination of Dracula that was done in 1971 in Italy by Corrado Farina, who's the director of Baba Yaga. I guess it's his biggest film, where he makes an allegory to Italian capitalism in the 70s by using a businessman as this blood-sucking devil. And the movie's not very good, but it always sticks in my head as a unique take on Dracula, where instead of having a castle with just nothing in it, he has a mansion full of sports cars and luxury.
And what's that one called?
They have changed their face.
I'm writing that down. That's another title that I like. They have changed their fascia. 1971?
Yeah.
All right.
All I can think of are all the really crappy like romance movies that came out with these types of characters like vampires and zombies back in, the 2010s, where you had, the Twilight series, where it kind of, it took a vampire, scary Dracula character and made it for like teenage girls to fawn over, which is just, it's different. But I also remember there was a movie that made zombies love interests too. It was called Warm Bodies. It's based off a book, like Twilight was. I think it came out in like 2013. Didn't do well. The way that they defeat the zombies was like through the power of love, I think, where they like returned. You could like reverse the zombie-ness if you kissed them. I don't remember exactly.
Warming their hearts.
Yeah, you like warmed their hearts instead of like just killing them.
They had some cute zombies in it.
Yeah. But I don't know. I just think of like, that's kind of how I was first introduced, I think, to these typical like monster characters, was just crummy teen movies.
Yeah, I think a lot of people were like, because Disney did a lot of, and now we got the Hotel Transylvania, which 100% next generation, a lot of kids will say they found out about Dracula and Frankenstein because of Hotel Transylvania, which is weird.
Yeah.
But I don't really have anything that's like more compelling, I guess, in terms of like monster movies.
I was thinking of this one's not serious, and actually there's one part of it I got kind of a problem with, but the Tucker and Dale versus Evil. Like, it's gonna be a horror comedy. Okay, whatever, I'll check it out. And then they just they take the expectations of the horror, and it was really clever how they kind of flipped it on its head. We're like, we're just two guys hanging out, but like the the kids just happen to be looking at him at the wrong time, so it's got kind of the Mr. Wilson, Dennis the Menace kind of vibe.
I've always
Dennis
seen
the
that
Men-
movie. Like Tubi advertises it all the time. I just never clicked on it. But
yeah,
yeah, it looked like a horror comedy, kind of
it
like
is,
Shaun of the
but
Dead.
yeah, but the point of Tucker and Dale versus Evil, the whole point of it is that these kids going through the woods keep seeing Tucker and Dale
Mm.
doing these things that look like they're psycho hillbilly
Mm-hmm.
killers, but you get to see their point of view, and they're just doing innocuous things. It just happens to look really bad. But then there's like one thing that happens at the end where they're like, oh, sometimes you just got to take what you want, and the guy goes like, they're in a bowling alley, and the guy goes and like uh punches this girl in the face, drags her away, and just gives a thumbs up. I was like, that was a weird choice, but okay. But like everything up until that point was really good.
Yeah. Haven't seen it, but maybe we'll watch it at some point.
Yeah, I would say give it about 15-20 minutes, and then you'll know if you're in for the rest of it. But I think it's clever enough that you might be in.
Yeah. That kind of reminded me of like horror comedies. We did a really quick episode on
Anna versus the Apocalypse.
Yes, Anna versus the Apocalypse, which is a zombie movie, but it's a musical zombie movie, and
it's a Christmas movie.
Yeah, and it's a Christmas movie. It's a Christmas musical zombie movie. So it really
mixes
has
it up.
has something for everybody.
I wanted to watch it at a horror film festival. My friends were not into it. So then I bought the DVD and watched it, and was like, I wish I watched this in theaters. It's really fun.
There's another one. There's another one. I think it's called Spontaneous. I could get I might have the title wrong. I think it's called Spontaneous, but it looks like just like a regular like YA, like maybe a high school romantic thing, with like mild horror elements.
That's in my watch list currently.
Yeah, it's just a bunch of kids in the area just spontaneously start combusting. And then, okay, this is a fun horror movie. And then as it goes on, it's like just like really, I don't know. It's as the movie went on, it's like, this is like way better than it has any right to be. Like they're just going above and beyond with this premise and with the characters and everything. So that would probably be one that on its surface seems like this will be a stupid, maybe fun thing. And then I watch it and I was like, oh, this is way better than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, much like how I felt with this movie.
There you go.
Way better than I thought it was going to be originally.
Except without spontaneously combusting characters.
Yeah, no spontaneous combustion in this movie.
Not a lot of laughs either.
No, it is pretty. It's pretty somber, but I think that unlike some other movies that are like pretty much somber throughout, it doesn't necessarily need to have any breaks of like a joke or anything like that in it, because it is so short and kind of succinct. So it doesn't like make it feel like it's just dogpiling on you sadness,
Yeah.
And also, I think with like if this broke out into, I don't know, it could get a little comedy in there. I guess there's like a couple kind of parts where it's kind of like crack a smile funny, but not like
yeah, that's
like
good.
the one carrying at the thing is like, you should smile more. It's like I get what I see what you're doing there.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then you go back to why she's not smiling. It's like, oh god.
Yeah. It's like, oof, tragic. But I think everyone's good with leaving it at that. I think that's all that we have for this episode.
Yes.
Do you want to tell the people where they can find you at one last time?
They can find me in Colorado Springs at my house.
Don't actually go there.
We usually have people over on the weekends to party and watch football.
There you
go. You can also find me on every week. I'm on Find Your Film, and lately I've been doing a lot of interviews with like indie directors and so on and so forth. That was usually Greg's thing, and been doing that for a couple of them. Those have been fun, really fun. I'm not quite as good as Greg is at that, but It's like anything, you do it for a while and then maybe it'll get better, or at least that's the idea. We'll see what happens. But also every month, the top of every month, I join Greg and Bruce again on cinematics. And on that one, we don't really review movies. That's more of a preview of what's to come out.
Mhm.
And then Finder Film is where we actually do the reviews on them.
Go check him out, and
then I come on here
Yes.
to do the spoiler discussion.
Yes. We are not a spoiler friendly, or we spoil the heck out of movies. That's what I'm just trying to say.
Exactly. But then, yeah, if you go back a couple of years, you can find the episode on Finder Film where we're talking about My Heart Can't Beat Unless You Tell It To, and you can just watch me kind of stumble over my own words, trying not to give things away and try to talk about the movie without talking about it, which can be frustrating, but it's still fun nonetheless.
That's why we just spoil it, because I think it's too hard for my brain to keep up with.
There's something wrong with the younger brother. I don't want to spoil it for you, but
I want to tell you what it is.
He's a little different than other kids.
His eyes are a bit more bloodshot than most, but I'm not going to tell you what that means.
But I think that's all for now. So we'll see you guys next time.
Yep. Good times, great oldies.